Live on your DSTV channel 42 and GoTV channel 125. This is Joe News Prime with me, Samuel Kojo Brace. Our lead stories this are Ghana's import bill in the first quarter of 2024 shoot up by $100 million as the country struggles to stabilize the city, which has lost more than 20% of its value against the US dollar since the beginning of the year. More as the Ghana Statistical Service Trade Vulnerability Report paints a gloomy picture of export value of cocoa, which has dwindled by more than $230 million in the first quarter of this year compared to the same period last year. Tonight, tensions heightening between TUC and SNIT as high-powered meeting ends with TUC insisting the deal to sell off major shares in 4 hotels to Rock City Hotel must be botched. And trial of Dr. Akufo-Addo forcing causing financial loss to the state takes dramatic twist as a minority leader petitions Chief Justice to allow a live media broadcast of his trial. Now, Minority Leader Dr. Akufo-Addo forcing his impression on Chief Justice Gertrude Tokonu to allow a live broadcast of his ongoing trial because of the public interest the case has generated. There has been heightened public interest in the case after the other accused person, businessman Richard Jakpa, alleged in open court the Attorney General has been impressing on him to incriminate the minority leader. The NDC has since published a call recording allegedly proving his claim made in court. The governing MPP and the Attorney General's Department have categorically denied that the AG has done anything wrong. In the last few hours, lawyer for the minority leader says because of all of this, the trial must be broadcast live. A member of our legal affairs desk, Kweku Asante, joins me via Zoom with a copy of this letter from the lawyers of the minority leader. Kweku, what is the reasoning provided in this request to back the request for a live telecast?
Well, Kojo Brace, this is a letter that is coming in from the lawyers for the Attorney General, lawyers for the minority leader, Dr. Akufo-Addo forcing Aziz Bamba and Associates. It says, we write to formally request the live broadcast of all subsequent court proceedings in the case of the Republic versus Akufo-Addo forcing. This request is made on behalf of our client in light of recent developments that have significantly impacted public perception of the case and administration of justice. They do believe that if the Chief Justice allows for a live telecast of this case, it will indeed deepen transparency, and they are relying on the precedent that has been recently set by the AG to make this request.
Now, we know that the minority leader himself has also issued a statement in the last few hours. What is he saying?
Well, the minority leader, in fact, did talk about this precedent that was set by the Supreme Court in allowing the Attorney General to get the live telecast of the anti-LGBTQ cases. It says, in the wake of the recent expose concerning the alleged misconduct of the AG, Godfrey Debo-Adame, I have instructed my lawyers to petition the Chief Justice for the live broadcast of all subsequent proceedings in the ambulance trial. This request is motivated by a deep commitment to transparency and open justice. Live broadcasting a trial would serve several important purposes. It would ensure that the public has full access to the evidence and arguments presented in court. This would allow citizens to form their own informed opinions about the case. The minority leader statement that was been put out in the last few hours really made the point about why it is so crucial for him in getting a fair trial that the public is able to follow this case, being live on both TV and radio.
Now, some weeks back, the CJ or the Chief Justice accepted a request by the AG to allow the live broadcast of the case on the anti-LGBTQI plus cases. What is the reasoning the CJ gave for accepting that?
Well, so just about a few weeks ago, there are a number of cases that have been filed against the anti-LGBTQ bill, and 2 of them in the Supreme Court, 2 of them in the High Court. The Attorney General did write to the Chief Justice requesting that those cases be beamed live. The Chief Justice did accept that. Of course, we have not seen the correspondence specifically from the Chief Justice to the AG on that, but journalists were allowed into the Supreme Court to cover that proceedings live. On Monday, one of the cases against the anti-LGBTQ bill, which will be at the High Court, will now also be beamed live on TV for everyone to follow because the AG's request has been acceded to. The Judicial Service have since written to us members of the Judicial Press Corps, allowing us access. They say it is also because of the deep and huge public interest in this case, for which reason the Chief Justice has allowed this hearing. And that is what the minority leader is seeking to rely on to say that this trial also has huge public interest and implication, for which reason you must accept this request.
Now, Kweku, stay with me because there are more on this dummy gate. Private legal practitioner Samson Anyenini is questioning the reasons given by the Attorney General in refusing to accept a plea bargain request in the ongoing trial of the minority leader. Lawyers for the third accused person, Richard Jakpa, wrote to the Attorney General conveying a proposal from Big C Trading LLC to pay €2 million out of the 2.37 million euros the state claims to have lost in the ambulance transaction. We hear from Samson Anyenini shortly. First, though, Kweku, you are still with me, so share with me this one. We understand that, I mean, the terms, the Big C LLC and Jakpa presented a plea bargaining request to the Attorney General. What were the terms of this particular proposal?
So it's gone on about 3 different times. The Attorney General has rejected all those plea requests. Let me tell you about the first. The 2 million euros Jakpa wanted to pay. They were going to pay 500,000 euros on the execution of the arrangement. They're going to pay 1.5 million 6 months after the execution of the arrangement. And this was coming from Big C, which is not a party to the case. Big C is a company based in Dubai, which was supplying this ambulance. The Attorney General rejected this request, saying that Big C is not a party to the case, for which reason he does not believe they should be allowed to do a plea bargain arrangement. Lawyers for Jakpa then write to the Attorney General saying that this is a position that they have adopted, to say that it is they rather that are now making the application for plea bargain, and the Attorney General again rejected it. But we know that at the time, they did write to the minority leader to understand whether he was backing this position or not, and they did do say that. And then there has also been the second that came in, that the AG rejected $1 million in execution and $1 million within 6 months of execution. Brace, just coming in, some information we are getting is that lawyers for the 10 accused in the ambulance case, Richard Jakpa, have filed an application for an order striking out the charges against him, alternatively staying the proceedings against him. In the witness statement, Mr. Jakpa testifies on oath that the Attorney General, Godfred Dame, has had several interactions with him in which he has told him that he, Mr. Jakpa, was innocent and assured him of his acquittal. And that is the information they have just made that application. That is just information that I'm getting as breaking news, that Richard Jakpa's lawyers have written or have made an application to the court that is undertaking this trial, asking them to strike out the charges against him because the AG had made certain comments to him or representations to him that he was innocent. And because of that, these charges must be struck against him or there must be a stay of execution. That is the breaking news that is just coming in now.
So break it down for people who do not understand the legalese. What does this mean?
So according to the lawyers for Richard Jakpa, we are yet to get to see the rate that he has filed in court to get some more details on that. Richard Jakpa says, in his communication with the Attorney General had consistently made the case to him that he was indeed innocent and that he was not the one he was coming after. The big fish, the minority leader. Richard Jakpa says, if the Attorney General, who is prosecuting me, really knows that I am innocent and he is still filing these charges against me, then that is wrong. For which reason he's asking the court to acquit him and strike out the charges against him. If the court acquiesces this, he will no longer be an accused person because he believes the AG has made representations to him that he is truly innocent. And he relies on constitutional and certain statutory provision to say that you cannot put an innocent person on trial. When the person undertaking this prosecution, the Attorney General, knows that he is innocent.
Kweku, I'm grateful to you for joining us and giving us all of this. Now, Samson Anyenini, who is also host of Newsfile on Joy News here, says the AG needs to offer more cogent reasons why he refused the plea bargain request.
We are chasing the money. If one person involved in a matter which we are chasing almost 2.4 million euros, and one person out of the 3 accused or 2 accused at a point makes a plea offer of 2 million euros, and we are told that was even enhanced later on, what will be the basis to reject that plea offer? I think the Attorney General owes us an explanation to that issue, because it's the money that you and I are interested in. Yes, a criminal prosecution may lead to jail terms if it is successful and bring deterrence. But there is good reason we have the plea process.
Now listen to Deputy AG Alfred Tuayabua respond to the issues of the request for live telecast and also the issue about causing financial loss to the state. He spoke to me earlier on Top Story on Joy FM.
We have no objection to that request, but of course, subject to the discretion of the Chief Justice, because we believe in transparency, we believe in accountability, and we abhor misreporting. And so, if the Chief Justice, in her wisdom, decides that this matter should be live, we have no objection to say. In fact, the AG at different fora had indicated that when it comes to public interest matters, or matters where the public has that kind of interest, it will be the interest of justice that such proceedings are broadcast live on tele and on radio. So we have no objection to it. But as I said, the CJ has the final say. Not only the broadcast, we also look at a situation where we can even have day-to-day hearing so that we can get to the end of this matter as soon as possible. So the broadcast, if possible, may have to go with day-to-day hearing so that we can get to the end of this particular matter.
Just give me a bit of education here. If you look at Article 296, exercise of discretionary power, it says, where in this Constitution or in any other law discretionary power is vested in any person or authority, A, that discretionary power should be deemed to imply a duty to be fair and candid. B, the exercise of the discretionary power shall not be arbitrary, capricious or biased either by resentment, prejudice or personal dislike, and shall be in accordance with the due process of the law. Now, looking at this, was your department fair and candid in rejecting a plea that was paying almost 90% of a debt for which you were prosecuting some people?
We were fair and candid. The discretion vested in the Attorney General to either reject or accept such an offer was properly exercised. And for that matter, we have no reservations or problems with regard to the decision taken by the Attorney General in rejecting the offer.
Now, the Ghana Statistical Service Trade Vulnerability Report paints a gloomy picture of export value of cocoa, which has dwindled by more than $230 million in the first quarter of this year compared to the same period last year. Fresh data contained in the Ghana Statistical Service 2023 and 2024 first quarter trade vulnerability report has revealed that Ghana's total import bill went up by $100 million between the first quarter of this year and that of last year. This comes at a time when the country is battling continuous exchange rate fluctuations as the city shared more than 20% of its value against the American greenback in the retail market. The report indicated that the significant decline in cocoa export inflows, which have been a reliable source of shelter for the city. Listen to government statistician Professor Samuel Kobina-Enim, who announced these statistics.
Between 2022 and 2023, we are recording about a 42.2 billion Ghana cedis from an exports point of view, representing 30% increase in our total exports between 2022 and 2023. From an import perspective, in 2023, the total value of our imports stood at 180.7 billion Ghana cedis relative to 148.6 billion Ghana cedis. Keep in mind the rate of growth for exports relative to the rate of growth for imports. I did indicate that the rate of growth for exports between 2022 and 2023 was 42.2 billion Ghana cedis. And in the case of imports, we were recording 32.1 billion Ghana cedis. So while we are seeing an increase in exports of 42.2 billion Ghana cedis between 2022 and 2023, in the case of imports, we saw a 32.1 billion Ghana cedis. So clearly, between 2022 and 2023, we're doing more on the side of exports than imports. The storyline slightly changes if you look at it from the US-denominated point of view. That is where we begin to think about the exchange rate implications on our external trade, both from an export perspective and from an import perspective. While we clearly saw an increase from both an export and an import perspective. In the case of the Ghana cedi denominated, in the case of the USD denominated, we saw relatively a decline for both exports and imports between 2022 and 2023, specifically with exports declining by 0.8 billion US dollars relative to 2.0 billion US dollars between 2022 and 2023, increasing by about 3.4 percentage points over this time period. We turn the conversation to cocoa. As was indicated, while we saw a consolidation in the position of gold in the first quarter of 2024, in the case of cocoa, we saw a decline in its share by 8.5 percentage points.
Well, Isaac Kofi is with our research desk, and he joins me in studio with more on this. Kofi, let's start with, all of the issues that border on the import bill for the quarter of this year. How did it increase by $100 million? That's huge.
I mean, I always say that we don't print dollars in this country, so any inflow of dollar into the country, we hold it dear, and outflows the same way. If you look at this chart, looking at it from the cedi side or the dollar side, you can see the huge bills in terms of our imports, which is in blue. I want to focus really on the import because that's what takes the dollar out of the country. Just look at last year, first quarter of 2023, we're hovering somewhere around $3.8 billion in the first quarter of 2023. That was our import bill then. Look at it in 2024, we've moved from that 3.8 to 3.9. Look at it just like that, you might think it's marginal and not significant. But if you do the change, we're looking at more, somewhere $100 million. Now, if you see what is happening to the cedi and the current depreciation, and you have $100 million addition in your import bill, that's very significant, especially when you are a country that your import bill exceeds somewhere around $10 billion every year. That makes it a bit problematic, Joe.
A bit more focus was placed on cocoa, which we understand is not bringing in much more.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Now, let's look at this, the next diagram, which talks about cocoa, and you can see the cyclical movement in terms of the peaks. Now, I would like to also compare last year, the first quarter, to this year, first quarter, in terms of how much we were raking in from cocoa export. We understand that Cocoa Board has placed, a bid for 1.5 billion cocoa syndicated loan. That tells you that cocoa is the backbone of the economy. In fact, if you do all the seasonalization in terms of the big guys that brings in forest, cocoa is actually what we can say is one of our own, because whatever we gain, we're able to return about 90% of it. Last year, first quarter, cocoa was doing, in terms of inflows, more than $800 million. Now, this year, we are looking at somewhere around, I think, $590 million more. The difference, you read it, you said it, I mean, it's about 233, I think, $0.6 million. For us to be at this position and to lose a forex inflow of $233 million is huge.
That's a lot.
And because it's the backbone of the cedi, that's where the cedi goes to take shelter from the cocoa. And since cocoa is not really performing, you can see what is happening to the cedi in the exchange rate market.
Now, Russia also featured prominently in this report. What was Russia's role?
I mean, it's interesting to be talking about Russia now due to some of the geopolitical tensions we are facing. But this is interesting. The interesting thing is that Russia is being mentioned as part of one of our trade partners in terms of import. Why? Because Russia is replacing a certain country on the top 5 import partners. Now, let's look at these countries. We start from, let's go to the next slide. We start from 2022. Now, Kojo, 2022, you can see the top 5, import origins where we're getting most of our goods. First one is China. They've still maintained their position in 2023.
Okay.
Now, second was United Kingdom, which is the UK. Third was Netherlands. You have the US and India. This was 2022. Now, let's go to 2023. Something significant happens to the second and third position. See what happens. In 2023, there is no more United Kingdom, which was holding 19% of all our imports. It's gone. It's no longer in the top 5. What is now in the top 5 is Russia.
Number 3.
And what are we importing from Russia? Oil. I mean, fuel, refined crude that we use to, power vehicles and all of that. Russia is now number 3 in terms of the top 5 when it comes to, import partners in the country, Kojo.
Very interesting statistics there. Now, let's go on the phone lines now and speak to Dominic Odum, who is head of trade statistics at the Ghana Statistical Service. I'm grateful to you for joining. How bad is Ghana exposed in the arena of international trade?
Good evening. Let me say a good evening to your listeners. Yeah, so like you are discussing, this report was to give much insight into...
So, Mr. Odum, I would appreciate it if you could speak up a bit for me, sir.
Okay. Is it okay now?
Yes, a bit better.
Yeah. So the intent of the report is to provide policymakers with much more detail so that our policy and decisions can be guided. So what this report has seek to do is not to just the total, we exported this, we imported this, but within those totals, how are the dynamics? What are the commodities we are exporting? What are the commodities we are importing? Where are we sending them to? Where are we bringing them from? So these are the dynamics, and then we try to also come up with a quarterly newsletter, which gives us trends, how we are faring from one quarter to the other since 2021.
But don't these make Ghana vulnerable in the international market?
So, like I indicated in my earlier submission, that is one of the reasons why Statistical Service, which is mandated to provide official statistics to guide informed policy, is trying to move beyond just providing or giving out data in total. So if you look at the report, like the gentleman in the studio was saying, the dynamics when it comes to our import of fuel. We used to import a lot of fuel from the United Kingdom. Now it has switched to Russia. Is this as a result of policy decisions or is just by coincidence? So these are the details we have provided in the report to guide policy such that once we are trading, we are sure we are not just so vulnerable to one country or the other, but in case of any eventuality, we have other options.
Okay. Now, geopolitics is key in such vulnerability instances. So how crucial is Ghana's reliance on Russia for all of this, or especially for petroleum products?
Yeah, so if you look at the data in 2022, we're dealing with the United Kingdom and then other countries. Here comes in 2023, and Russia is coming up as one of our major import partners when it comes to oil.
Australia.
So the question is, are we diversified enough in terms of our trade partners, such that if one country has a problem, we have options? So these are the issues. For example, if you look at exports, I am not deviating, with 3 commodities, gold, oil, and cocoa, is constituting about 2/3 of our total imports. So the question is, if there is any shock on the commodity market for any of these commodities, how are we going to rope in forex to be able to sustain the economy? So these are the issues we, as Statistical Service, with policymakers will pick up and then try and enact policies that can move us out of that situation into a better situation.
Thanks for joining us here. Now, away from that developing story, government has justified the selection of Next Gen Infrastructure Company to implement the rollout of 5G internet services in Ghana, despite the company's formation just a week before government policy approval. The contract, which experts estimate to be worth hundreds of millions of dollars, was awarded through sole sourcing, raising suspicions about the transparency and fairness of the procurement process. But addressing the media on the subject, Communications and Digitalization Minister Ursula Akufo-Addo announced a partnership with 7 industry leaders to develop a new shared infrastructure aimed at delivering affordable 5G mobile broadband services across Ghana.
Now, this is a special purpose vehicle. Once government took the decision that we would use a neutral infrastructure company to deliver this service. There is no existing neutral infrastructure company at the moment. So it had to be specifically formed for the purpose of delivering this service based on the strategic policy decision of government. And it is born out of, as I indicated, our past experiences. And that is why we chose not to auction it. I'm sure the finance minister would have been happy if we had sold it off at auction, collected our money, and moved on, without caring what impact it would have on the sector. Unfortunately for the finance minister, unfortunately for Ghana, we in the Ministry of Communications care about the impact of decisions taken on the growth of the sector. And so after analyzing the nature of our telecommunications sector, it was clear that if you auctioned the spectrum, only one or two entities will be able to acquire it. They will roll out the network at their own pace. And if 4G was introduced in this country in 2015, and we still have only 15% 4G penetration, and we auction 5G, within the next 10 years, we will still be hovering around 10% penetration. Is that what this government or this country wants? No. We want to accelerate the pace of access to telecommunications to every Ghanaian, everywhere in the country, regardless of where you are. So the best vehicle that the government thought would enable us to provide this service to all Ghanaians within the shortest possible time is to set up a neutral shared infrastructure company. And that was set up following the policy decision taken to auction it. And that is why it is a new company.
Now, from that, residents of Adabraka, Sahara are asking authorities to construct gutters to address their severe sanitation issues. Now, they claim the government has neglected their area, possibly due to its strong support for the NDC. Suti Aborchi report from Adabraka on today's episode of Filth Exhibition.
This is Adabraka, Sahara, right here in the heart of Accra. And this open gutter, you see, is right in the middle of the street where about 2 school buildings are. Now, it's the morning after about 6 hours of heavy downpour of rain. And we came to assess the situation here. Aside the filth that has engulfed this community, the issues that they raise are alarming. They speak about the neglect of the ruling party because this is not an NPP stronghold. Let's hear the story of filth from the horse's own mouth.
You feel me, Joe? But they have me and say, I'm gonna say hi. Zone.
My name is Joe, and my issue is that they say this is an NDC zone, so they won't construct a gutter for us. They have fixed those in the market in Odona, but left this one. Is this nice? Those they have fixed are in hidden places, yet this open one has been neglected. Government, come and construct the gutter for us. As for me, I will not beg the government because they don't beg me to vote for them. They should fix it if they want. Otherwise, they can leave it like that.
Livingston is one of the residents who live here at Adabraka, and he wants to speak about the dire circumstances they find themselves every time the rains come. Let's hear his story now.
When the rains come, we suffer. The place becomes dangerous. They don't drain the gutter as well as they should. AMA was here last week, and this is the result of the work they did. This is why our homes get flooded when it rains. They have politicized the whole thing, but we are all Ghanaians. Initially, they used to bring machines to drain the gutter, but now they use their hands. How would they do a good job? Malaria is a common disease here. It's so worrying. Our children are constantly falling sick. We need government to come to our aid.
My heart goes out to residents in this community, people who live here, who work here, and the students who use this road on a daily basis to get education. If indeed this is an intentional neglect of the ruling New Patriotic Party, because this is not an MPP stronghold, and if again, indeed, this is the best work that the AMA can do to distill this gutter, then we are faced with a dire sanitation crisis. And only God knows to what end this goes. For Joy News, I'm Sweetie Abochi.
And I am Samuel Kojo here in the studio. We'll take a quick break. When we return, we'll still have more stories for you here on the Joy News Prime. Please do stay. Welcome back from the break, and let's do more stories here. Tension between the labor unions and board of SNET heightens as both conclude the first in a series of meetings over the proposal to sell major shares in 4 huge hotels to a private partner. SNET selected Rock City Hotel, which is affiliated to our Greek Minister, Brian Achampon. The labor unions made it clear to the board they want this deal cancelled with immediate effect. Board chairman of SNET was at this meeting.
The meeting between the labor unions and that of the board of SNET took place at the head office of TUC in Accra. The labor unions told Joy News they will not compromise on their stance to get this deal cancelled. Dr. Yauba is the executive secretary of TUC.
SNET says that they have not made a decision to sell the stake of SNET in these 4 hotels to anyone. They are still considering proposals, and that they are listening. Given what has happened, they are listening. And so this meeting was one of the sessions that allowed them to listen. And our advice was very simple and straightforward. We said, please, given all what has happened, cancel the deal, convene a stakeholder meeting. There are a number of issues that have come up about SNET in the last couple of weeks. Let us take them one after the other. And what we concluded was that we are ready to work together with SNET board to make sure that the image that has gone out about SNET is changed. If they have taken the decision and they think that they have the right and the mandate to take a decision on behalf of SNET because they have been appointed, we wouldn't be sitting here with them. The decision has not been made. And we have advised that they should not sell our stake to anyone. I think we had a very fruitful meeting. The conclusion was clear that they are listening. And this came from the board chair, that please, we are still listening. That question you asked was asked to them. And the answer was, we are still listening. So if indeed they are listening, we have offered our advice. And we are politely saying, please stop this deal. Convene a stakeholder meeting. Let's look at this investment. Let us look at the other issues that have come into the public domain. No. There's no ultimatum in this matter.
Dr. Akufo-Addo, who represents Clocks Access, the labor unions have some far-reaching proposals to the operations of SNET. He says the labor unions are now in a position to take control of the operations of SNET.
There were so many negatives in the transaction that we have pointed it out to them. How can you go through a tender process and you give specifications, and then along the line you change the specifications? Our Procurement Act does not allow this. We've told them to cancel the deal. That was our advice to them. Cancel the deal. will not be part of this deal. What we are saying is that the at 766 give control to workers when it comes to their second tier and they are performing. The same thing should happen to tier 1. We will take control. This is our money and we would take control. They dare not. They dare not. We've told them in plain language, they dare not. They dare not go ahead with this. And we've told them. That's why I'm saying we're not convinced. And we tell them in plain language, we are not convinced with what you are telling us. We are not convinced. We are not convinced at all. And we're going to ask for a total restructure of SNIT. Because this is not how you should manage workers' money. And it's because the money is, this is not government money, this is workers' money. And what we'll say, why should government be appointing even a chair to the state board? It's not government money, it's workers' money. It's workers' that must appoint who is supposed to steer our affairs for us. So we're going to look at that. We're not going to allow it.
The labor unions are now calling for a stakeholder engagement with all players within the sector. However, they insist that their stance to get this deal cancelled will not change. For Joy News, Michael Ashale.
To Parliament now, where Majority Leader Alexander Afenyo-Markin says he will investigate claims a member of his caucus, Akufo-Addo, who is chairman of the Finance Committee, is blocking the tax waivers before the House. Now, close to $300 million worth of tax waivers is stuck in the Finance Committee, caught in a political controversy with the minority vowing to oppose it every step of the way. Addressing journalists today in Parliament, Majority Leader promised an investigation into allegations his Obuasi West colleague is siding with the NDC in blocking the transaction. He also charged his colleagues in the NDC to be patriotic and join them to pass the tax waivers, or they will use their numbers to push the waivers through.
Government 1D, 1F policy, which policy requires that certain tax incentives are given. And you know how the minority has been stampeding this whole policy of government, and it appears that they have not given up. We don't want unnecessary acrimony. It's the reason why we still engage our colleagues in the minority. It's the reason why we are appealing to them. But I can assure you that when we get to that critical bridge, we'll have no difficulty at all in crossing that bridge. They are merely playing politics with it. And I'm saying that the waivers would help our local businesses to expand and be more competitive. They would increase production and they would become innovative because they would have the needed liquidity. It is important that we lay the fact bare, because they are out there saying that government is giving freebies. But it is important for us to put the issue in proper perspective and remind Ghanaians, including the minority, what they did in government, and prove to them that they are only acting in bad faith. And that is what we've done, to call on our colleagues to support government. Therefore, if they are very patriotic, if the NDC are indeed patriotic, I hold the view that they have to support this government. We just want to appeal to their conscience to care about the ordinary Ghanaian.
Well, the Majority Leader Alexander Afenyo-Markin is accusing his NDC colleagues of political hypocrisy and seeking to sabotage the economic development of the country with their continuous opposition to the approval of the tax waivers. He mentioned tax waivers granted under the NDC, including those that did not even come to Parliament.
But we know that in 2016, this country experienced the most outrageous tax giveaway ever seen in Ghana when the NDC, led by President John Mahama,
handed a tax waiver of 832 million US dollars to Meridian Port Services under the 1D1F. Under the 1D1F, all the 42 companies that government has so far brought to Parliament for a waiver, the total waiver being requested, being applied for by government, is not even up to 450 million. And these are Ghanaian companies. In Parliament, Dr. Forson, Deputy Finance Minister, etc., etc., as he then was, quoted, said, and I would quote him, he said that the tax incentives were not merely considered for the sake of being granted, but that such exemptions were necessary. This is Dr. Forson, as he then was. Dr. Forson, Deputy Finance Minister, as he then was. He said, if the incentives were not granted, it will result in those investments relocating to other countries. Gentlemen and ladies of the press, you have heard him on the floor of the House. Why has he conveniently chosen to stay away from his own argument? Which argument is to the effect that when you grant tax waiver, it helps the economy.
All right, welcome back to the bulletin. Let's now do showbiz, and you know what? Becky Bex is here in all her glory. Hi, yeah, today you're wearing, I think this is...
We're in the finals. We're in the finals on Saturday.
This is Real Madrid.
Thank you very much.
Los Blancos.
Real Madrid fans were in the building. But first of all, let's talk about Nasi, because he's in the news. He was with Andy Dossi this morning. They had a very... fantastic conversation. And one thing that came up was whether or not he will be, cooking something small for the NDC this time around. And he said yes. He also spoke about his relationship with former President John Dramani Mahama.
I've already said that, you see, NDC have seen what I can do. And they believe in my talent. So they always kind of make sure that, okay, shall I do something for us? Do something for us, and that's more inspiring. So if you call me, microphone,
but it looks like there is some sort of affiliation with you and the party.
Because I told you that President Mahama became my friend way back in 2012.
Okay, yeah. Because of the
he looked for me, and he told me how deeply he likes my songs, and he likes me, and he likes my talent, and he advised me to, keep it up. I shouldn't, mess around with certain things, and
He advised you?
Yes, and I have kept his, the advice and also the relationship till now. So, if somebody is more like a friend and a father, a figure to you, definitely when he calls you for something, you cannot say, I will not do it.
Will you accept any position if they come to power?
No.
Why?
I don't want.
I'm the song. I thought you wanted to dance with me.
Oh, no.
That's a great song.
Yeah, it's a danceable tune there. But the director took it off earlier. I was preparing to join.
Probably because we don't have time. Let's talk about Olive the Boy, because he's hopeful. TGMA is around the corner. He's hopeful that he's going to win the new artist of the year, and also the biggest conversation now is who wins the artist of the year. There's 7 people in that category. This guy, Olive the Boy, he says it's either Sarkodie, Stonebwoy, or Kim Promise for him.
God, Charlie. I appreciate
Are you winning it?
We're winning it.
Why?
I really deserve them.
What sets you apart from the other nominees?
I don't want to go too much into them, but let me just put a few stuff out there. You know, about the song Good Sing was #1. You understand? On Shazam in Nigeria and in Ghana, you don't get that easily. You understand? We were able to enter the top 100 for Apple Music Nigeria, Ghana, all the same. It was organic. You didn't understand what I did try to. And then it was loud. I think it was #1 in Liberia. It got to #1 in Sierra Leone too. You know, the numbers be crazy. The whole EP set where Good Sing come out of, you get like over 200 million streams already. You understand? A lot of things actually go inside. I don't know people that my numbers, but then that's mine, and I feel like Good Sing did a lot of work last year. So,
do you think will win the artist of the year for you?
For me, this question is actually very. Sorry. I wouldn't be able to say, but like
your top 3.
Okay, top 3, right? Top 3. Sarkodie, Stonebwoy, Kim Promise.
You cannot choose one out of the 3.
I mean, I could. I actually the root for Kim Promise, but then probably you see, it take a lot. You understand? Sometimes we
Olive the Boy right there. Please don't forget that Hit FM Rep Your Jersey. All is set for the event. Come June 1 at the Aviation Social Center. We have that for you. But let's talk about Raskuku is telling us all that, I mean, you have to be there. I'm sure, Brace, you've never been there before, but this is the reason why you have to be there. Raskuku, take it away.
Oh, my goodness.
That's Raskuku right there. Brace, can you do something for me there, right?
Oh, it's been such a long time, you know. But let me try.
I thought you were the best football. Okay,
yeah, I'm
okay.
trying. It's been a long time, you know. But look, give me back the ball. Let me do my actions with it. You know, those days when I used to play football.
When you used to play football.
Exactly. Look,
here we go again.
No, my team can leave me. They can go and leave me. And trust that when anybody comes at me, I'll defend the ball, and I will.
Please defend Joy News at this moment so that we can wrap it all up.
Oh, okay. So let me see.
Okay.
You know what? Those days, you know, I'm a defender. I wasn't a stylish boy like that, but I can
what
do.
Does a defender do?
I can do this.
Oh, that. Yeah. Oh my God!
That's what it is.
We'll come watch you on Saturday.
You have
to be there. Brace will be there. We will be there. Remember, please, to brush your teeth before you go to bed this evening and tomorrow morning when you wake up from bed with either Pepsodent Cavity Fighter, Pepsodent Charcoal, Pepsodent Herbal, or Pepsodent Triple Protection, because with Pepsodent,
every smile matters. Well, that's it. Oh, but don't worry. Thank you for being with us. There's more news on myjoyonline.com. You need to be at Aviation Social Center
on Saturday.
And see
tomorrow, wear your jersey. Please.
I will.
Please rep your jersey. Real Madrid.
Manchester United.
We're on.